this is a bit of a special month, June and July this year. Some big milestones for H&S. It is the 10-year anniversary of business for H&S Coffee Roasters, and it is the first anniversary of me taking over, buying out the business, taking it over, and taking off in a new direction. So to celebrate, we've got an extra large drop this month. All right, starting things off from Gigante, Colombia, we have El Paraiso Lot 4. This is a washed Coutura field blend, and I believe this is my fourth purchase from Ernetis. And it's really nice to be able to return to a single farm and purchase coffee year over year over year, and to be a part of that process, that the farmer is able to take profits, reinvest in the farm, increase efficiencies, and increase quality. And that's really kind of the name of the game for me, for specialty coffee and kind of my involvement in that. That's why this coffee is on the menu this month, and this is the Roaster's Choice subscription bag number 1. This coffee is fabulously sweet, really nice and juicy, excellent clean cup. Just about every note on here can be attached to an ice cream sort of sweetness to it. It's really thick on the mouthfeel. Really nice. I've got orange creamsicle, green grape, and raspberry. It's really a nicely balanced coffee. Beautiful. Really nice. Okay, next up, and this is the Roaster's Choice subscription bag number 2 for this month. And this is a new one for me, so I don't really have a history to tell about this one. This is Los Patios Solsticio. Solsticio is the marker given to this lot by Coffee Quest, who produced this lot through a new station that they've built specifically for exploring value add processing. This is a co-ferment washed Castillo lot. Castillo is a variety that is a little bit polarizing. It's a good variety to grow because it has a good yield and good disease resistance, and it has a texture and a mouthfeel to it that is a little bit, it can be a little bit earthy, and it can be a little bit mealy, like an overripe green apple that's sort of mushy, kind of mealy on the tongue. And so you see a lot of Castillo lots being further processed to try to change that flavor profile and to increase the value of that coffee. And it seems like there's been a lot of success in this area. And so I chose this coffee to sort of represent a little bit of what is currently happening to help increase the value and increase those payouts that are going back to farmers. It's really quite fun. A lot of fruit punch notes to it. Maybe this could earn a Funk Level 1 badge, but I think it's pretty minimal in the cup. I think both the process is not overdone to an extent where you're going to taste that really forward on the palate. There's also a lot to say with the roast profile that took place here. Whenever I come across these additionally processed coffees, I really look hard at how I can manipulate the roast in order to minimize the amount of that process. Capri Sun, pineapple, raspberry. It's juicy, it's sweet, it's very tart. The pineapple note, I think, is really clean. I think overall this is a pretty clean cup. This is cleaner than a lot of straight Castillos, in my opinion, with the added benefit of having lots of tropical fruit notes to it, and that fruit punch note. It's really, really nice. As it rests and ages out, I think the funk and the process may further come out of this coffee. I may end up going back to add it. I did that with the El Jardín. I think I did that with the Lote 3. Moving on, this was the Roaster's Choice bag number 3 this month, and this is a competition-winning coffee. This is Santo Librada, and this is a washed pink bourbon. This is also 2024 Huila Magico competition second place coffee, and this is an absolutely dazzling gem of a coffee. Probably the cleanest cup on the table. It is the most intense cup on the table, certainly. This Los Patios is pretty intense, but this is intense in a much different way. And The notes on this coffee are just really, really beautiful. So pink bourbones, I like to put a lot of pink notes on, and we do start with pink lemonade. It's definitely in there. I'd venture and go as far as to say maybe a pink lemonade Arnold Palmer. Mix that with a little bit of iced tea. It's pretty tea-like on the finish, owing to the ultralight roast profile on this. But next I've got pomegranate and then mango on here. Just these beautifully sweet and tart tropical fruits. It is an ultralight coffee. It's omega clean. It's very tea-like into the finish. Actually, maybe it's a little too light, but with a little more rest, I reckon we're going to get some really neon-like intensity coming out of this coffee. No one ever complained about an H&S Ultralight being too light. I've been buying Quila Magico lots, competition winners, for 3 years now. This is the third one. I have previously purchased an Hernandez Rodriguez Quila Magico winning lot as well. I will be looking at this farm again, definitely in future harvests, because it is just absolutely stunning. Definitely the best Quila Magico that I've ever brought in to H&S. Okay, moving on. We are wrapping up Ecuador season. If I look back, I think Liceo was super unique. So was the La Reserva Mejorado Natural. And then, of course, Arashi. And these two coffees from Hacienda La Papaya in Saraguro, Ecuador, produced by Juan Peña, are right there with them all. Very unique, interesting, dynamic coffees. So we're starting with the washed Mejorado from La Papaya. Omega sweet. It's a Mejorado. It's sweetness forward. But what I really like about this, in contrast to the previous Arashi release, is that this coffee has a lot of tartness to it as well. And it's just got a really nice zing to it. And then loads of sweetness. And then a floral finish. It's the whole package. It's such a beautiful, fun coffee. And it's just beautiful. So La Papaya, I've been buying La Papaya for 6 years now. And I think it's been 4 years, maybe 5 years that I've been buying directly from La Papaya through their exporting company, Caf Exporto. This one starts really nice and tart. I've got green grape on here. I suppose you could also see a little bit of peach stone fruit in there. And then I move into what I'm calling candied pluot. Pluot is an apricot and a plum sort of cross. So I want to emphasize the sweetness of the apricot, the tartness of the plum, and then the overall just super sweetness of a Mejorado by calling that a candied note. And then finishing with honeysuckle. So we have that Mejorado floral finish, but then again, it's also pretty sweet. And so I've got honeysuckle in there as a really nice sort of floral clean finish to this one. Brilliant. Really brilliant. So sweet. The balance that comes out of these Mejorados is really fun for me to explore because there's so much information in this coffee that manipulating it through the roast becomes a really fun exercise for me. And finding the balance between florality, sweetness, and acidity is really fun because not a lot of coffees offer all three of those notes, textures, mouthfeels, indicators so thoroughly and so prominently as something like this washed Mejorado. So that was a really fun coffee to dial in. I'm really, really happy with it. And finally, we're going to stick with La Papaya, Hacienda La Papaya, produced by Juan Peña. And we have here an absolutely beautiful and stunning washed geisha. So I just sung the praises of this washed Mejorado for having all of those really nice attributes to be able to manipulate in a roast. And then we move over here to a geisha that's grown on the same farm. And you can really see the similarities between these two coffees, but then the florality just really gets cranked up on this washed geisha. So much, in fact, that I have listed a floral note, lilac, as being the first note on this coffee. And the first note that I list generally is the most prominent note, or it's the one that hits your palate first. And I've never listed a floral note first, ever. It's almost always in the finish. But this one, it really hits up front and it just stays on the palate all throughout the sip. It's just so beautiful. It's so floral. It's pungently floral. And I learned a new descriptor word recently, ethereal. So ethereal being used to describe some pretty wacky processes, but I actually think some of that florality, perfumey almost type notes, kind of, if you think about a perfume having an alcoholic base, kind of get yourself there to an ethereal cup. It's very voluminous. It's so soft. But again, coming from La Papaya, there's some really nice tartness on these cups. Here I've got lychee and peach finishing out the notes on this one, and I really, really love that balance there. It's stunning. It's so beautiful. An absolute rarity too, by the way. La Papaya vastly overestimated their harvest on the Gesha this year. I asked for quite a bit more than I got. Let's talk about brewing and resting on these coffees. The El Paraiso Lot 4 and the Los Patios Solsticio, these are light roasts. And for the brewing today, I chose the Gabby Gentle recipe. This is a standardized recipe that I use. It is a 12-gram dose, 200 grams of water. I use the Gabby Master A brewer, and I use a little bit of a coarser grind than I use for my Gabby standard recipe. And it's just a recipe that emphasizes a little bit more sweetness and acidity in the cup. It sort of pushes the notes together a little bit. Doesn't give me the flavor separation that the standard recipe does, but it is a much more forgiving recipe and it works a lot better across a lot more coffees. So for these light roasts, I chose that, and I think it turned out really, really nicely. And I think on rest is really hard for me to convey. I'm drinking it day one and starting to base my opinions and my tasting notes off of that. So I'm really tuned in to drinking very, very fresh, very light coffee. So I'm going to say 15 days, maybe 20, depending on how your personal preferences go. Okay, Santa Librada. This is an overwhelmingly intense coffee, and so far I've enjoyed it every which way. I've enjoyed it on the Gabby Standard, where it really separates the flavor. That tea-like finish is a little bit floral in that high ratio extraction. This today I brewed with that, the Gabby Standard recipe. The intensity is just always going to be there. You kind of can't really get away from it, and so it doesn't really matter how you brew it. You're going to get a super intense, very sweet and clean, neon-like intense cup. It's just brilliant. Brilliant. I'm literally brilliant. Just sparkling. I have tried this with my extraction yield minimizing recipes. The intensity is really overwhelming on that, but in a good way. It's fun. So I think you can take this any which way. And on rest, it does taste a little young yet. I would like for that tea-like finish to transform a little bit more and lend itself into the sweetness and the acidity in the cup. So I will say up to 30 days on this one. Okay, finally, for the two La Papayas, I'm going to talk about these together. These are the two lightest roasted ultralight coffees that I've ever put out. Judging by color and by weight loss, they both vie for the least amount of weight lost, especially on this Gesha. I actually clocked this one in at 9.25% weight loss, which is unreal. And color. These both are the lightest by color coffees that I've ever roasted. And they're showing that in the cup as well. So today for the brew, I opted for EY minning both of these. I used the Kinu grinder up-dosed to 15-gram doses and used a 1:16 ratio. They're responding well to that, given that they're so fresh. Higher ratio, higher extraction yield recipes are going to give you a lot more flavor separation, and they're really going to pull out the florals in these coffees. But I think you need to wait at least 30 days until you start going in that direction. Give them at least 30 days. I'd say wait 30 days. You will be rewarded with some of the most beautiful, most dynamic, and interesting coffees released this year. and certainly two of the highlights from an absolutely star-studded Ecuador harvest season. Okay, I think that's it. Huge drop this month. We had some stuff to celebrate. I'm really happy with everything on this table. I love the direction that H&S is heading in. I love that I'm getting so much support from you all out there and that you are enjoying these coffees as much as I am. As always, let me know what you're tasting. Let me know what's working for you. Let me know what's not. And we're going to come back in July and we're going to tip the tables a little bit and get away from so many beautiful wash coffees. It's going to be a pretty fun one. Stay tuned for that. That's it for now. As always, happy sipping. Bye.